So congratulations, you reached the end of this video course. This is of course video number 10, and we're going to take all the things that we did in the previous videos and take all the video snippets that you now have in hand and simply reorganize them based on the sequential teaser outline that we created in the previous videos. Now, if you don't have these snippets that fit a certain area of your outline, then that's totally fine, but you will need, of course, to create them yourself or hire a voiceover artist to do them for you. Now, I will say it's most likely easier to create them yourselves, and sometimes you could even remove the audio and just place a soundtrack on top of them. So even if the video creator has a different voice than you, it doesn't matter. Or you can totally remove it and add your own voice and do that. So I'm going to show you different ways of doing that in this particular video. Another thing you can do is if you hire a voiceover artist, you can simply give them the text script, have them do the audio, and then place some video on top of that as well. All right, so let me show you how all of this works. And of course, we decide this one here, we're gonna create ourselves, but this one here is there. So the problem is technology, how to create or how to make a WordPress site SEO friendly, not sure about what to do, what formula to use, what plugins to use, blah, blah, blah. So let's say that piece was this and we need to create these, and then introducing the solution. So usually the solution hasn't been created, so you need to create that yourself. So sometimes you can simply click on the plus sign, or you can use annotations as well. So what we're going to do is, usually in the beginning that's the case, but if that's not, then you can always import like images and stuff. So let's see. Let's say, for example, that we do have the image created. So what we could do is we could click on media. And what we want to do is we want to go back up here, import media. And we want to find some images. And I've got a background here. So let's say we'll move that down here. And if you put your mouse over here, you'll notice you can drag this and extend the time. So we can see that it moves from here over to here, and we can always move this as well, like that. So we could even move like that. So we have a background. And of course we could add some sort of call out on top of that. So we've got different behaviors, we have annotations and call outs. So let's say we're going to add a call out here. And instead of white, we're going to make that black, like that. One thing I found with teaser videos is ask people questions. So how can you make your WordPress site SEO friendly? And of course we could extend that. Let's say we'll put it there. And of course, what I did just now is I clicked copy, and then I right clicked and clicked on paste. And that gives you the ability to add more text. So what you can do here is add more text. So how can you make your site SEO friendly? You can say by implementing 5 factors. And let's say we're going to put that there, and then let's go back to our media and talk about the 5 factors. So if we go back to the outline here, let's say we've done that, so we'll mark this red, or we'll actually gray this out. And then of course the quick overview of the solution, and then the 5-factor video. So the 5-factor, let's see here, that's video number 3. So what I'm going to do here, push video number 3 over here, And then I'm going to look for the part where I talk about the 5 factors. So let's see. That's why you need to watch the video course and figure out, okay, where does it actually talk about the 5 factors without giving too much away? One thing you want to make sure of is when you create teaser videos is not to give too much away. Because if you can give too much away, then somebody else will just go to Google and figure it out themselves. But you want to talk about the what's and the whys, meaning what are the 5 important factors and why are they important? And sometimes you may not get that information in the video course. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad course. It just means the outline that you want to create may be a little bit different. And if that's the case, that's fine. You can always tweak it and do what I'm doing here. So let's say, for example, that the snippet that we want starts from here and then it ends in here. So if that's the case, we want to put the marker here. We want to split it. And of course, delete everything to the left of it. And let's say that it ends right here. We'll split. And then we'll move that right here. All right. And then we move on to the next item, which is the introduction or second part video. So second video. So what's important? Why is it important? So that would be video number 2. So let's look for number 2. This one here. Okay, so let's say, okay, this part here is important. We want to extract this part from the left of it, and we want to stop here. We're going to split that, and then we want this part. So we're going to move that over here, and we refer back over here, and then we think, okay, now let's show some highlights of the actual course. So 4 to 8, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's look here. So we got, where's 4? 4 is here. And remember with the highlights, we want to look for some screen share. So let's go straight here. And let's say, okay, we don't want to give too much screen share away because that will show somebody exactly what to do. But we'll say that, okay, this gives a little bit of information, but it doesn't give too much away. So we're going to split that here. And then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to right click, copy. I'm going to move over here. And then we're going to paste. And the reason why I'm doing this is you'll see in a minute. Here's some highlights, or not highlights, but here's some sneak peek previews of the course. So now we can grab this, we can move it over here, and then we can show the highlights here. So we go from here over to here. So we do the same thing for the rest of the 5, 6, 7, and 8. We extract those highlights and we add them here. So let's see here. Let's just do one for number 7. And we'll say, okay, this is, a piece. Let's grab a piece out of here. Now, obviously, as I grab the piece, I don't want you to grab just random pieces, but grab pieces that you think would actually add value kind of deal. Now, one way of doing this is you can also remove the actual audio. So if you were to remove the audio and you were to add a soundtrack to it, all you need to do is simply click on the video, right click, and then you can edit audio, or you can separate audio and video. If you do that, then you can delete the audio track, do the same thing here. Of course, you could edit the audio and delete that as well, but either way is fine. And then what you could do is add a soundtrack, and then it makes it feel like you're viewing one cohesive unit kind of deal. And you can also voice over it as well. Okay, So once that's done, we can add a call to action right here. Want more, or want a free report on 5 ways to make your site SEO friendly in 2 hours. Sign up below. So you always want to have a call to action at the end of a teaser video. So once that's done, you can spice it up by going to a site called Videos, or you can hire an After Effects developer. But Videos is probably better. But you can go to vidyoze.com, and this is a program that you can use, and you don't even have to be a After Effects editor, and you can create some fancy introductions and outros, and then you can add them to the beginning, the ending, the middle section of your video to make it look more professional. And while you're at it, you can also add transitions. So let me show you that real quick. So if you go to transitions, you can add, basically transitions are elements that are between each of these snippets or sections of the media that allow you to transition from one element to another. So right now, let's say we go from here to here. If we click play, you'll see that it jumps from the orange to the red without any sort of transition. But if we add a transition, it makes it look a little bit nicer. So we can say fade through black here. So now take a look as we go from here to here. So you can see there's a nicer transition. We can also make the transition longer by extending the arrows like so, like that. But you don't want to make it too long, otherwise it can get boring and slow. You can also add other transitions as well, but what I've noticed is that typically you want to stick with just like fade or fade. The other ones look kind of cheesy if you think about it, so if you do like flip, it's okay, but in a certain way it looks kind of old school. So really up to you and really up to what your audience likes, but that's how you do it. And then of course, if you want to add a soundtrack, then you can always import media into here and simply drag the soundtrack to another additional track. So if you click this little plus sign here, it adds tracks, and you can add a soundtrack on top of here. So let's say, for example, give you an example here. So this right here, we've got the audio and the video. So let's say, for example, we import a soundtrack. It's going to look like this, something like this. So we're going to move it on top on track number 3. And of course, if it's not long enough, you want to make sure that the soundtrack is long enough. But what you could do is, if the soundtrack is too short, you can always loop it around. And the way you loop it around is by simply copy and paste, and then putting a duplicate right here. One thing I will say is, whenever you create a video and you have a soundtrack, it's highly recommended that the soundtrack is not too loud. So make sure when you listen to the soundtrack that if you do have voice, that it's not too loud. If you don't have voice, then still make sure that the soundtrack is not too loud. Otherwise, sometimes it will take away from the actual trailer itself. Of course, movie trailers can kind of get away with it because it's a lot of times action oriented. But I hope you enjoyed seeing how to piece together your video course.